asking. Joanna M says, is kale good for your pet? Joanna, kale is great. And not just kale, but all dark green leafies. As I mentioned, the only things you're going to avoid from the garden are chives and onions, but all those dark green, colorful leafies are really good for your dog and your cat if he or she will eat them. A lot of kitties are not into roughage, but it's interesting. My best friend, who's also a veterinarian, she adopted a kitty from a shelter who was obsessed with eating would not nose bomb dive into salads, which is not normal for a kitty who is by nature an obligate carnivore. But what's interesting is that Dr. Recker's cat, when we did microbiome testing, she was totally deficient in fiber. So it was her body telling her, like Cheryl, her kitty's obsession with wanting to eat salad. And she was obsessive about her favorite foods were Brussels sprouts and kale. And that's not normal for a carnivore that would want to be hunting mice, but she was obsessive about veggies because she was so fiber deficient. So what Dr. Recker did is she ground up a bunch of medicinal mushrooms, a bunch of dark green leafies, okra, endive, escarole, kale. She ground everything up together, put a dollop in ice cube trays, and every day she'd pop one out, thaw, and then mix in basically a heaping teaspoon of this veggie mix in with Cheryl's meat-based, nutritionally complete raw food. And within about 3 months, Cheryl's obsessive desire to want to eat like salad diminished because we were finally meeting her fiber requirement. So that speaks of two things. Well, this speaks of three things. Number one, there's this thing called zoopharmacognosy, which means animals have a desire to self-medicate. And there's some other questions that I'm going to get to about self-medication. If you have a dog or cat that's obsessing about wanting to eat something, honor that. So for instance, if your dog wants to go after mushrooms in the backyard, that's scary because a lot of outdoor mushrooms are poisonous. Now, here's the rule of thumb with mushrooms. Any mushrooms you buy from the store for yourself, from the grocery store, or from a farmer's market, any human edible mushroom that's safe and healthy for humans is safe and healthy for dogs and cats. Any outdoor mushroom that's potentially toxic for humans will also kill your dog and cat. So I just have a no forage mushrooms outside rule. I'm not a mycologist, so I'm not good at identifying, oh, this is an edible mushroom or this one's poisonous. So I just don't let my animals or myself eat any mushrooms from the wild. If you're really good at identifying mushrooms, bravo, that's great. But it is important that you're not allowing your dog to self-select mushrooms because they can select mushrooms that could kill them. That being said, mushrooms are one of the medicinal, culinary, healthy mushrooms are one of the healthiest things you can offer your animals. So what Dr. Recker found is that mushrooms with all of this great prebiotic fiber also had beta glucans, all of these beautiful medicinal components, along with the high fiber veggies that she was giving to Cheryl, that allowed Cheryl's fiber requirement to finally be met. We have underestimated both dogs and cats' fiber requirement. And I think that that can be reflected in how much grass they want to eat, how much dirt they want to eat. Animals, dogs and cats can be really obsessive about wanting to eat certain things, including fibrous things, because they're lacking fiber in their diet. And by giving them more fiber through fresh fruits and veggies, we're helping to meet that fiber requirement in a whole food, healthy way. So yes, I love feeding kale. The one caveat to kale would be, Joanna, that if you have a dog that has a genetic predisposition to creating oxalate stones, so some breeds, Shih Tzus come to mind, they can be a genetic predisposition to making bladder and kidney stones that are calcium oxalate foundation, that are rooted in a naturally occurring accumulation of calcium oxalate crystals in their kidneys and bladder. If you have a dog that has this genetic predisposition, you would want to steam high oxalate veggies. And kale is a vegetable that does have higher than average veggie oxalate content. So steaming your kale is a way to dramatically reduce the oxalate content. But all that to say, when you're in the kitchen and when you're chopping up fresh fruits and veggies, especially those beautiful dark green leafies, you chopping them up and sharing them with your dogs or cats, A-okay. And it's interesting, like spinach, also a high oxalate. If you've got oxalate issues, you can just steam. You can do leftover steamed veggies for animals that have oxalate issues. But I do think that it's wonderful you're thinking about giving kale to your animals because it means that you have recognized that your dogs and cats need some fresh foods on a daily basis, not just for their microbiome health, but for all those polyphenols and antioxidants and all the beneficial bioactives that are found in fresh, unadulterated living fruits and veggies. Really good that you recognize that. So yes, go ahead and feed some kale. Ingrid